Hi everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Kristel Doreleijers and since October 2019 I am working as a PhD candidate at the Department of Culture Studies. I have a background in Dutch studies and linguistics, so this will also be the topic of this presentation. In this video I will tell you something about my current PhD project. As you can see, I'm standing right in front of a very iconic building. This building is called Het Evoluon and is located in Eindhoven. Of course, I wouldn't be standing here if this building did not have some symbolic value. First, I come from Eindhoven myself, but second, this building is part of the cultural heritage of North-Brabant. In my PhD, I am studying Brabantish dialects, which are also part of this heritage and the cultural identity. This venue used to be a museum of technology, but is now used for different purposes, such as conferences, business parties, exhibitions, and there is also a restaurant. This ensures that the building is kept alive. But how about regional languages? Due to globalization and immigration, languages are changing. In particular, dialects are losing ground, as their most typical features seem to disappear in favor of the standard language. Speakers are worried about this because dialects are an important aspect of their cultural identity. My research is about a specific case of language variation and change in Brabantish dialects, gender marking. As you might recognize, there is a lot of variation when it comes to gender marking in standard Dutch. For example, sentences like ik ken de meisje die daar woont instead of ik ken het meisje dat daar woont are quite remarkable. Although these sentences are irritating to most speakers of Dutch, I don't see them as a symptom of language decay, but rather as a highly interesting example of language change. There is a comparable pattern of change going on in the Dutch dialects, especially the southern dialects. Brabantish dialects originally had a very rich and coherent gender marking system compared to Dutch. In standard Dutch there is a twofold distinction between common gender on the one hand and neuter gender on the other hand. During the years, the masculine and feminine gender classes have been lumped together, resulting in one class of common gender. There are different linguistic forms for neuter nouns, the so-called het woorden, and masculine and feminine nouns, de woorden, but there's not always a clearly visible difference between masculine and feminine gender. For example, an article doesn't tell you if a noun has masculine or feminine gender. This is part of the implicit knowledge of the speaker. The system of the Brabantish dialects is very different, as it has different markers for masculine, feminine and neuter lexical gender. The masculine gender marker is the most salient one. This marker includes a suffix which makes the indefinite article un in Dutch sound like une or nun. From the ongoing process of dialect leveling, we would expect that knowledge of lexical gender is fading away. It is very likely that the vitality of gender marking relates to its visibility. When speakers get fewer linguistic cues, it becomes harder to acquire the rules of the gender marking system. This raises the question how and why the marking of gender in Brabantish dialects varies and changes. If it changes into a new system, how does this new system look like? Is it converging towards standard Dutch, or is this not at all the case? I am conducting this research from two different perspectives, a theoretical linguistic perspective and a sociolinguistic perspective. From a theoretical point of view, I want to gain more insights into the grammar, that is to say the principles and rules of language as a cognitive system. We know from previous research that language variation is not unlimited. Therefore, I want to investigate if this specific case of language variation and change shows certain patterns. From a sociolinguistic point of view, I want to study the function of gender marking as a symbol of the Brabantish language, culture and identity. It seems to refer to a certain register that is tied to regional culture and identity, indexing Brabantishness. By using gender markers, speakers express a sense of regional belonging. My initial data reveals that speakers use so-called hyperdialectisms, overgeneralizations of gender marking, so for example a masculine marker in a female or neuter context. For example, een oma, a grandmother, or een koekske, a cookie. These hyperdialectisms aim to emphasize a deviation from standard Dutch. Moreover, speakers also use innovative gender markers such as ne. These are not part of the original gender marking system. I expect these forms to occur more frequently in contexts that trigger such a deviation. For example, when identity construction plays an important role. People want to show that they come from Brabant, and so they use the distinguishing gender marking more often. To conclude, I want to emphasize that it seems like dialects are not completely disappearing, but changing into new varieties that belong to the younger generations. Changes and innovations are important to keep the dialects alive, just like at Eveluron has been given a different purpose. This was my research project in a nutshell. If you want to stay informed about my PhD project, you can click on the links in the description of this video. Thank you for watching.